execute the agreement, how is Colonial Power compensated for their work?
They're compensated by the company that actually purchase power from. They get either percentage or a penny per kilowatt, something like that.
So if they do some analysis and ultimately we choose not to go forward, we're not on the hook for any compensation. I've had 2 residents call me in the last week that heard about this, probably through the town meeting process, but both were very excited about the prospects of it and encouraged us to do as much as we can to make that a reality. So I think people are paying attention to this.
I've had some businesses come to see me hoping that the project starts soon. I know from the town standpoint with our public buildings, we just locked in some energy rates for 2019 that were extremely favorable. So there has been a drop in the market right now. So sooner we get out there and get this going, better for the residents.
Great. And Colonial Power is a local company too.
It's a local company, which is really one of the major driving forces. What they all do and the price they all charge is the same for their work, and they all do the same work. Having a local company was important.
Chairman, my question was that we don't have to bid this in any way because the fee is fairly set. It's just a matter of preference.
There's an exemption for it also. Some towns have, other towns have not. There's only a handful of people that do this work. So we can do this without any type of bidding. And I did go through the process of having all the companies give me information. At least the two that I was serious about looking at.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, so in that context, is there a motion to authorize the town manager to contract with Colonial Power on this particular issue?
So moved, Chair.
Second. A motion made and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I will vote aye as well.
The next item, I'd ask the board to approve the temporary borrowing of $150,000 to cover costs for the high school project. We still haven't received our full reimbursement from MSBA. We haven't finalized all the paperwork needed. There's some outstanding items that we're working through. This will just ensure that we have enough money in case anything comes up over the next several months as Peter Collins from Harry finalizes the paperwork for MSBA. The $150,000 is a temporary borrowing that will be paid off once we finalize our reimbursement with MSBA. If we need to do a long-term borrowing, we will. The borrowing is through Unibank. It's a 0.5%. I think the interest cost is $325 to be paid off by December 23rd. I have some documents for the board to sign. So if the board can vote to the sale of $150,000 anticipation serial loan for school construction loan of the town dated June 23rd, 2015. Known as the note to Unibank for savings. The price of $150,000 is hereby approved and confirmed. The note shall be payable December 23rd, 2015, and shall bear an interest rate of 0.5%.
Okay. Other questions about that? What do you feel the odds are, Mr. Montori, that you'll have the MSBA issue resolved before this note?
I think it's a good chance. Some of the outstanding issues will be resolved, and Peter Collins, I met with him last week, and he's focused on getting it done. He's met with the finance department.
And this would be like the last step in the...
Should be,
Yeah. Great. Okay. All right, so if there are no other questions, we won't repeat the town manager. We have the language in front of us with the specific detail. I'd ask for a motion to the effect as offered by the town manager.
So moved, Chair. Second.
All right, so we have a motion made and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair will vote aye as well. The rate was 0.5%, right? If you could give this to our...
Actually,
You give that to,
Yeah. So clerk can sign this, and then there's 4 documents for the board to sign.
Yeah, Richard, give this to us, and she'll have the motion itself. Okay.
And then finally, last time I just want to mention that the police department was a recipient of a grant from the Commonwealth of Mass for, along with other communities, the communities of Lowell, Chelmsford, and Dracut, for substance abuse prevention. The grant award is for a full-time public health substance abuse director who would work collaboratively with communities on education. Tewksbury Police Department will be the lead agency. They prepared the grant. The person will work out of town. And the grant is $100,000. It can go as high as $700,000 over multi-years. So, we're very excited about the grant. We're very excited to be the lead agency on the grant. Police Chief Mike Welch and the other members of the department did a great job on this, and we're excited to work with Lowell, Chelmsford, Dracut on the program.
Yeah. That's a tremendous grant considering the state of affairs in our society today with substance abuse. So every effort we can make here locally and certainly regionally to that effort is very helpful. So congratulations to I assume that was driven through the police department. I think the police chief has demonstrated a knack for successful grant writing because we probably have seen half a dozen or more in the course of the last 12 months or so. So that's great. Thank you. Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, so I'm going to let you address the agenda item. It has to do with Wells Drive real estate tax abatement. I'm a resident of Wells Drive, and while this doesn't affect my property specifically as a resident of the street, it has potential to impact me, so I am going to recuse myself from this discussion. I'll leave the room and ask the Vice Chair, Mr. Panelitis, to assume the responsibilities for this, and I will come back when you summon me. If you choose to, I'm going to go home. I'll take my keys and I'll take everything.
Can I do it from here? Do I have to sit there?
You can do it for wherever you want.
All right. So,
Mr. Chairman, on December 2nd, 2014, Wells Estate owner Maureen De Palma deeded to the town 4 lots of open space for the Wells Drive development. Ms. De Palma paid the first 2 quarterly taxes for FY15 per Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 72A. The Chief Assessor, Joanne Foley, is requesting that the remaining unpaid taxes on the land for the remainder of the fiscal year be abated. In order to do that, we need a vote of the Board of Selectmen. So for map 9, lot 100, the balance to be abated is $284.55. For map 9, lot 93, the balance to be abated is $41.35. For map 9, lot 27, the amount to be abated is $297.55. And finally, for map 9, lot 99, the amount to be abated is $261.86. The board can vote to abate the balances that I just referenced on the 4 lots. The assessor will take it from there.
are there any questions?
No.
All right, hearing none, I guess we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the real estate tax abatement as proposed by the town manager.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair will vote aye as well. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
It's all yours.
Some yelling.
It's all yours.
I didn't hear you summon him back.
Some mutiny.
Not at all.
These documents need to be executed. Just before I go back to the agenda, I read an article this week, or maybe in the last 7 or 10 days, pertaining to that subject of conflicts. And in another community in the area, one of the selectmen recused him or herself from the discussion, but sat in the audience. And there was an advisory put out by, I think it's the Ethics Commission, but basically they advised that when any of us have a conflict, we literally should leave the room. While you're sitting in the audience and you may not be participating, it could be perceived that you're influencing the discussion in some way. So I mention it because I've had residents, ask the question, when do you find yourself in conflict and how do you approach it? It's obviously something we have guidance on, and I know each of you and I would try to adhere to the obligations that are attended with it, but it's worth noting for those who pay attention. Okay, we have just a couple more items to tend to. We have minutes that all are post-election of our newly minted town clerk of the board. So I will turn to you, Mr. Kratman, and ask for any motions or presentations that you wish to make.
Yes, well, a copy of the minutes have been distributed to all the members. We have 4 sessions that we have to approve. We have the April 28th regular and executive session. We have the April 29th regular and executive session, the May 4th regular session, and the May 19th regular and executive session. And I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
Are there any questions or concerns about any of those minutes? If not, is there a second to Mr. Kratman's motion?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll take them as a slate, and I'll ask for a vote, indicate by saying aye relative to all of those minutes in bulk. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye as well. Thank you, Mr. Kratman and Mrs. Marchant, for getting those things done. That brings us to board member reports. And let me start with my next senior colleague, Mr. Gage.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be brief. At the last Northern Middlesex Council of Government meeting, which was on May 20th, there were a number of items on their transportation, regional transportation plan that had to do with Route 38, but they're long-term. From 2016 to 2020, there's $2,339,000 that is going to be slated, but I was told by Ms. Beverly Woods that these will move up in time frame at some point in time, possibly, so people don't have to be alarmed by those timelines. For 2021, 2025, there was, for Tewksbury, for Route 38, $4,500,000 for Route 38 improvements, and another area, $3,200,000, another area, $1 million. So, and I won't keep going on for another year because it continues to 2031, 2035. But my point was that they're listening to us and paying attention to our loud cries that Route 38 needs work. Mrs. Reed attended the meeting. She took David Plunkett's place, and she also echoed that Route 38, from our perspective, NIMCOG needs to do the best they can to try to send money our way, or at least steer it our way. And I was elected the Metropolitan Planning Organization representative, which I was before. I think I was done by default because nobody wanted to do it. But that gives me more of a seat at the table when the money is appropriated for the regional transportation plan. So that hopefully should help us in some respects. Last Friday night, we had the Comedy Night, Public Events and Celebration Committee, in conjunction with the Patriotic Activities Committee. We ran a comedy night at the Elks, and it was very, very well attended. It went well. And both parties made some money toward their respective areas they were trying to raise money for. The fireworks, we raised some money for the fireworks, and we also raised some money toward the Fall Harvest Fair that's coming up on September 13th, and I'll segue into that. The Public Events and Celebrations Committee met to discuss the Fall Harvest Fair. The date is going to be September 13th, and we've already had a huge response from vendors that were part of the Fall Harvest Fair last year. Hopefully it's not as huge as it was last year, but it was a little shocking. But we're starting to map out a lot of the details that we seemed to have a little bit of trouble with last year as far as parking, and we're going to bus some people in, so there's not that big clog of problems as Mr. Wentworth remembers on Livingston Street, which was unbelievable and hard to manage. So we're working on it, and people have big public meetings. If people have any input or they want to come and join one of our meetings, we meet usually every other week. So you're welcome to come and sit with us and give your ideas about the Fall Harvest Fair. The only other thing I want to mention is the Public Events and Celebration Committee had a float on Memorial Day, and I was deeply involved in trying to put a float together for 6.5 hours, which I have no idea how to put a float together, but we figured it out. We had a lot of help from people that had done it before, from Pat Holland. Mark was in the area, and Dennis Sheehan had provided a vehicle for us, and he was excellent with advice, and we had the committee members did a great job of putting all kinds of decoration up and lattice and cutting boards, and it came out nice. So I got the chance to walk behind the float where everybody else rode on the float all the way down Main Street. So it was a lot of fun. I don't know, I'm not sure if I want to put that kind of effort in next year, but I certainly had a good time doing it. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kretman?
Well, it's been a busy couple of weeks, but the beautification committee met on the June 2nd, which was the last Tuesday. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the meeting, but I did reach out to a bunch of the members to discuss what was going on. They updated me on the switchboard boxes, the beautification of the islands. That we're doing a lot of good work, and I plan on attending the next meeting, which is scheduled for July 6th. And once again, they seem to be moving forward. They brought up the cleanup. They talked about setting up another cleanup date for the fall. And so hopefully when I attend the next one, I'll get a little bit better update on that. I do want to bring up a couple of things. It's not a board committee meeting, but I want to thank everybody who helped out with the Memorial Day Parade. I was very proud of our community, of everybody who showed up. Specifically, I want to thank Lisa Downey, the DAV, the VFW, the police and fire honor guards. They ran a great ceremony at the cemetery. It was very moving, it was very touching, and it was great to see all the veterans attend that type of ceremony. And then you move from something like that and you go right into the parade, where the streets were lined with children. And everybody did an awesome job of putting this together, all the volunteers that came out. I specifically want to thank Maureen De Palma and Dennis Sheehan. They're the ones who give us the floats. If it wasn't for them, we would not have the Memorial Day Parade. I mean, there's a lot of people that deserve accolades for what they do, but I wanted to specifically call them out for what they do. Everybody volunteered, people marched. The kids, they got more candy than Halloween. That was the census that I got of everybody. So it was a great day. We went from one thing, honoring our veterans, to going and having the children get to see everybody march and have a great day. Very proud of our town.
Thank you. Mr. Wentworth?
Just a couple things, Mr. Chairman. The CPC has taken a break from spending money to actually having some ribbon cutting ceremonies. So tomorrow at 5:30, we're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony at the Funway Park Playground. And following that, there's going to be a free community concert at 6 featuring Johnny the K. And families are encouraged to bring a picnic blanket, stay in and enjoy the concert, which is funded by the grant from the Tewksbury Cultural Council. So that'll be tomorrow. And then on June 26th at 6 o'clock, there's going to be a ribbon cutting and dedication of the new tennis courts at the high school. And again, that's funding from the CPC as well as the Friends of Tewksbury Tennis. The Farmers Market is getting up and running on June 20th. Janine Tamboli in the town manager's office is running that, coordinating that. She has a couple farms, a bunch of vendors. It's moved. It's no longer at Livingston Street. It's now going to be behind John Ryan's Pub right on Main Street in that parking lot. So lots of parking, lots of visibility, an opportunity to go and support those farms and those vendors. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. And I'll turn to Mr. Panelitis.
I'll apologize in front, but this is a rather lengthy report. First, I want to just mention that Mr. Kretman and I both attended the high school graduation last Friday. Mr. Wentworth was there as well, but as a parent, not in the ceremonial role. Again, it's the third of graduation that they've held in the high school gym, and they do a very good job with it. So I want to just commend the school committee and the superintendent and their staff that put that on. It was a great event. Quickly on the Economic Development Committee, we haven't met in a little bit. We're looking at a meeting probably end of June. All of the members were given homework assignments to start to work on some things going forward, looking at specifically Route 38, but other areas as well. The Town Center Master Plan Committee is having its next meeting on June 16th. That'll be 7:30 p.m. here in the Pike House. That will be our first meeting with the vendor that we contracted, Cecil Group, to go over the timeline and really set the agenda going forward for this, what we intend to be a very public process. So there will be at least a few public meetings. I believe I mentioned that at our last meeting, but an opportunity for the residents to really have input in what the town center we hope will look like in the future.
The date?
June 16th, it's a Tuesday, I think, at 7:30 p.m. here at the Pike House. That's really more of an administrative meeting. The public meetings will be happening in September and then again in late October. Everybody's welcome, obviously, to come to the meeting on the 16th, but it's really not a public hearing of any kind. The last thing was Mr. Wilson, who left us in April, used to attend the Northeast Municipal Gas Pipeline Coalition meetings. This is a coalition that we voted to join almost a year ago at this point. And so I attended the recent meeting, which was yesterday morning in Pepperell. Just one first comment that the coalition, when it was first formed, seemed to have sort of a neutral position relative to the pipeline. The coalition is, from my one meeting attendance, seems to have shifted to very much a anti-pipeline position. So that's something that we should consider as a board as to our participation, if that's the position we want to be supporting. But specifically related to some of the items that they covered, I think there's some areas that we, without really a lot of question, we can support. The first was that they now have officially identified the location of the compressor stations along the pipeline. The one that's of most concern to us is the one in Drake. It's a very large compressor station, I guess, compared to the sort of the industry standards. The coalition is asking, or is intending as a coalition, to send a letter to ask FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission that has oversight of this process, to delay what they call scoping sessions until 30 days after what are called resource reports are filed. These are reports relative to the environmental impact of these compressor stations. FERC had been saying that they would not schedule these scoping sessions until the locations were identified, but the resource reports last drafts are not up to date with those new compressor stations. So the request is simply to give the public time to review those resource reports. And so the coalition is looking for approval from its membership to send that letter. So, and also encouraging member communities to send their own letter to FERC to reinforce that request. So that's item one. I guess we'll come back to them.
Okay,
perhaps.
that's good.
Item two, part of the process is in reference to what's called Article 97 land. This is conservation land that is set aside in order, and the proposed pipeline crosses many Article 97 sites. In order for the pipeline to get approval to go through those sites, it requires a 2/3 vote of the Commonwealth Legislature, both houses of the legislature, in order for that to happen. The coalition is intending to reach out to our legislature, both all of our representatives in the communities affected, as well as the state senators, to ask that they oppose that process. And the last item is a tariff letter, which I did share with all of the board members via email. This was reference to a potential cost recovery proposal that may be put out by the New England State Committee on Electricity. The basic idea, I won't read the entire letter given the time, but I'll give you a copy for the minutes. The basic idea is that this cost recovery or a tariff could be put into place by electric companies to help fund the cost of the building of the pipeline by the gas industry. And so really it is a way to minimize or eliminate the risk for the companies that are paying for the pipeline by essentially front-loading it by receiving those fees directly from the electric companies who buy the gas to generate electricity. And so again, the coalition is requesting approval to send this out on behalf of all the members, and again encouraging individual communities to send their own letter in opposition to this. The basic idea being, if it's a private company wanting to do this sort of venture, they should fund it on their own and not look for the public to fund it through this sort of process. So those are the items, the main items that were covered. I guess I would ask that first that the board vote to give me approval to go back to the coalition to approve our participation in those 3 items. We can take them individually if my colleagues are not comfortable with them as a slate. And then also to write our own letters relative, at least to the tariff letter and to the scoping sessions. The lobbying aspect relative to the Article 97, I think each of us can make our own decisions as to any contact we'd like to have with our state representatives and our state senator relative to those. So.
Okay, so, all right, so let's take this and we'll take it in 3 steps. The first is you're asking for the board to authorize you to represent that the town of Tewksbury, in the context of the coalition, is on board with the coalition's correspondence.
Right, those 2 correspondence, one relative to what they're calling a tariff or cost recovery, and the second relative to delaying the scoping sessions until everybody has time to review the environmental reports.
Okay, are there questions or concerns about that step? And if not, can we have a motion to authorize our colleague
I'll
to?
make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, sure.
All right, so motion's made, seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Chair will vote aye as well, so I guess that would be unanimous to authorize your representation to the coalition, and we're on board with that step. Then the second would be, you're asking that we, independent of the coalition, on town of Tewksbury letterhead,
Right.
essentially say the same thing.
Ask for the same thing through the FERC process. So we've already submitted 2 separate letters to FERC relative to this process. It would be the same process, likely to come out of the town manager's office, but to sort of, we could pen that letter and then ask the town manager to submit that to FERC as well.
Okay, are there questions about that? Seems logical that we just took the vote we did. This would follow from that. Yeah, are there any motions?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second, sure.
All right, motion made, seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I will vote in the affirmative as well, so that would take that. I'll ask Mr. Panelitis if you would just collaborate with the town manager. It could be written that he signs it and reflects that the board voted unanimously, blah, 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 or if you prefer to write it and have all of us sign it, you can let us know and we'll.
Yeah, I think in the interest of time,
Yeah.
particularly for the scoping session letter, that we should have it come from the town manager's
That's
office, that's a decision that could come down any day from FERC, actually.
All right, and then the third, I actually would like to ask if we could, I'd like to think about the delegation piece of it. My view, gut reaction is I think there's more input if we were to communicate that as a board, instead of individually.
Relative to Article 97.
Correct. But I'd like to think that through a little bit, so if we could table that and just give some time to kind of dwell on that.
And there's time, the bill has not been put forward yet into either house. The likely reason, because nobody yet has been willing to take the bullet of being the sponsor for said, because it's actually part of the Massachusetts Constitution, the Article 97, and actually it's not clear whether FERC has authority to essentially override that, even if the legislature votes against it. So that's
Are you aware that our members of our delegation have spoken to this yet or not?
I don't know for sure on all of them. I know Representative Maselli has publicly said that he is against the pipeline, so I presume he would vote against this. Beyond that, I have not spoken to either Senator Italian or Representative Lyons on the matter.
Rep. Pacelli has not spoken specifically to this issue.
Not to that issue as far as I'm aware, but I know it'll be part of the conversation I have next week.
Okay, so if I could impose on you, between the two of us, if we could remember to bring this back up on the 23rd.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to dwell on it a little bit, think that through.
Mhm.
And you're right, I mean, we could each pick up the phone, but
Right.
on some levels, I think if we write as a board, it says a little different message, so.
Yeah, I think we may also want to consider as a board to look at the information in totality relative to the pipeline at this point, given where the coalition has gone, our participation there, and whether it may be time in the next months to consider either an affirmative or a negative position on the pipeline, where we have to this date remained relatively neutral, even though we've still, as I understand it, not allowed any surveying on town land. So that's just a suggestion for a future meeting to review that information.
Okay.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to be exceptionally brief. I just want to commend Mr. Panelitis, substituted in for me at the Memorial Day service at the cemetery. I was out of town, and I take great pride in honoring our veterans, and actually missed presenting, but I've heard through the grapevine, I look forward to watching that you are a more than capable substitute, and we might have to do a tug of war next year.
It's all yours next year,
So,
Mr. Chairman.
So we'll see what happens, but I want to thank you for stepping in and doing an admirable job, and my colleagues who, I think each of you, as I said, I was out of town, but each of you in some way, shape, or form participated and represented the board and obviously town leadership in the Memorial Day activities in general. So thank you to each of you for doing that, because it's an important step, as Mr. Kratman articulated, both in a solemn way, but also from a community perspective. There's a lot of positive to be gained there. So I don't have any other comments. All the committees that I'm on are struggling to have meetings, and I'm guessing it has something to do with me, but I don't know. So we'll come back here on the 23rd, and we'll get our appointments squared away, and any other business that we have. Is there anything on the horizon that you know of, Mr. Montori, that's of any significance for June 23rd, end of the fiscal year?
Nothing I can think of.
Any tying down of any expenses that we have? How are we doing on our fire station?
So far, we're doing okay. We need any additional funding. The FinCom still has some money in their reserve. They're meeting on the 18th to do the transfers. The end of the year is looking good. The auditors have already come in to start preliminary work on the audit. No issues on their end so far, so.
Okay. All right, so things right now are under control, sort of. Okay.
9:20 on Tuesday night.
All right, so we meet again here on June 23rd. I believe it will be 7 o'clock unless there's some reason to start earlier for an executive session purpose. Excuse me. But we'll assume 7 p.m. unless otherwise indicated. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. We have a motion made and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Any opposed? We are now adjourned. Thank you very much.